Andrew Houston, welcome to The Real Build. How you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Bill. How about you, brother?
Doing good, man. Glad to have you on. We were talking a little bit about this in the beginning. I've had a couple coaches on. You all have kind of your different styles and how you approach things too. So with further ado, let's talk about who is Andrew Houston.
Oh boy, that's a big question, man. That's a big question. So who's Andrew Houston? Andrew Houston, first and foremost, has got a couple of kids, teenagers, married, got a great life. I'm a hunter. I love the outdoors. I like getting things done. I like doing projects. I'm still a tradie at heart. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I still like using my hands and my tools and things of that nature. I was industrial controls licensed electrician, owned my own contracting company. I used to build automation lines, had quite a big crew of people. And then I'm giving you sort of the Coles Notes version. Then I basically systemized my contracting business, before it destroyed my marriage and my life. Luckily enough, I was able to apply the same sort of principles I learned in automation and automating and systematizing my business. Did that and sold my contracting business to my biggest competitor. I was basically doing double what he was doing in production and way more in profitability with half the crews. He couldn't figure it out. I obviously had figured it out because I had the business running without me. Sold it, and I guess basically, one of the main things that happened as far as getting me into this coaching business is I was coaching a whole bunch of buddies because tradies hang with tradies. So they were asking all my buddies that were contractors were like, "Hey, Andrew, how the hell are you getting all this time back? How are you getting all this money? How you don't seem so stressed. You were in the last 10 years." And so I started teaching some of my buddies these principles, and they started having similar success. And then when I sold the business, I had no clue what I was going to do. And they said, "Why don't you do what you did for us?" And I was like, what are you talking about, man? They're like, and back then, this is going way back. Mm-hmm. There wasn't something called a business coach. That term didn't even exist. And so long story short was I basically made a deal with them. I said, "Hey man, I'm going to help you for free. Don't worry about it." And they sort of said, "I'll tell you what, we'll give you a percentage of the profits." And I said, "Okay, that's a deal. It's a good challenge." So I cranked out their businesses, systematized their businesses, got their businesses running without them. And I realized, more and more contractors came to the table, contractors, no contractors. And, Profit for Contractors was created. So there's the Coles Notes version of Andrew Houston.
Love it. Love it. And going into that a little bit more too. I mean, first of all, I commend you. You actually had experience in trades and then you started coding. I mean, you went from having experience and then people saw what you did and then you turned it into coaching them too. A lot of coaches these days, and I mean, you see them all over Instagram. A lot of them just claim to be coaches and success coaches and they have no experience. It's like when the 20-year-old kid messages you on Instagram and it's like, "Hey man, I'm a coach, this and that. You want to learn from me? I can teach you how to do the A, B, and C." It's like, come on, man. You have no life experience. You haven't been through anything. How are you going to teach me something? And
it's huge, Bill. It's huge. It's very dangerous, actually. It's incredibly dangerous, right? To be dealing with people that don't have that acumen, that don't have that experience, that don't really know what it's like to doing a takeoff, reading blueprints, dealing with the clients. I mean, if you don't, you're trying to come up with you're trying to tell somebody you got a solution to something and you don't really know the true problem, you're just going to be giving them more problems, right? And, it's the problem with the coaching space. I mean, not to get heavily into this, but the problem with the coaching space is that it's not monitored. This isn't like the financial, this isn't like, becoming a financial advisor. This is like becoming a lawyer, becoming an accountant, where it's monitored, right? Where there's, where they have certain things that, rules that they have to follow. It's coaching is something that you really are affecting their business and you're affecting their life. And it's really sad to see so many people saying, hey man, I'm a coach. It's like, okay, like tell me how that is, how that's possible. And there are a lot of great coaches out there. I mean, you've had a lot of great coaches on the on your podcast, and they've got experience, they got background, they know what the fuck they're doing. But there's so many people out there that don't know what they're doing. And it's so any of the listeners listening in, be very wary of who you sign up with and who provides help to you. They've got to have been there, done it, and are doing it, in my personal opinion.
Highly, highly, highly agree, because like we were just saying, you literally can go on Instagram. I don't know how many DMs I get on a weekly basis from people trying to coach me on something or do something, and that goes into my spam folder or whatever you call it on Instagram, that other folder. But it's just, it puts such a negative taste in your mouth on the coaching industry. And there is a lot of good coaches out there. There is a lot of good coaches helping people and doing things and making a change in people's lives, like yourself. And that's what this podcast is all about, is helping people, helping the client, and that's why I was glad to have you on. I commend you for all your success and all the things you did before, and finding out that you should be helping people, because that your path to it, let's put it this way, your path to it was the right path. You came up with the solution for a bunch of guys that needed help with something. They asked you, you said, you know what, let's do it. They offered you a piece of it. You're like, okay, I can be pretty good at this. I have solutions for people. Maybe I should make something out of this. And that's where it took off, rather than just saying, you know what, I don't feel like doing anything else. I'm going to wake up today and be a coach, and then make this whole thing and sitting in front of a Lamborghini and renting a house and Airbnb, and then saying I'm good at selling this or doing that or whatever. So I commend you on that. I want to get into your construction a little bit, your background and that. So what were you exactly, in construction? How'd you get into it? Let's go into that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I got into construction, really going back. I got into construction because I come from a family of contractors. So, from my uncle owning a mechanic shop, to my dad being a tower crane operator, to my brother being installing carpets, and I mean I can go on, and they're all entrepreneurs as well. So I naturally, through going all the way back to high school, I had a natural interest. I was going to become a tradesperson, and I didn't know what kind of trade that I really wanted. So I tested a bunch of different things, and I really, had an inclination to electrical and robotics and electronics. So I became an industrial controls licensed electrician. I actually went back to school and got my electronics engineering technologist degree as well, so that I could put it all together, because I got so frustrated having to go to somebody else to fix a variable frequency drive. That's a electronics device that drives a motor. Okay, just to let everybody know what the hell that thing is. Anyways, so then I got into automation. I remember watching Sesame Street, man, and watching like, how do they build this, and how do they build, Henry bars, and how do they make this, and how do they make that? And I was just like so fascinated with it. So I got into automation. I heavily focused in the end, specializing in breweries. Go figure. I like beer, good gigs, paid well, guys had money. This is going back, way back in the day when there was, just the beginning of what's called microbreweries. So I specialized in that. And the rest is history. Got into owning my own contracting business, Houston Contracting. And it was a blast, man. It was a blast, and it was absolutely hell for 10 years as well. Yeah. I was good at my trade, man. Like, I think most contractors, Bill, they're the Gretzky of their trade. Like, I'm not fluffing my feathers, but I just naturally, you just like with kids, right? You give them a football, and, the one kid throws it and he's got a natural spiral. The other kid can't even, get it off into the air. And that's okay. No judgment. But I find that owners of contracting businesses, they are like the Gretzkys, man. They know their trade like it's like nobody else. And that's a strength, and it's one of the greatest curses that they have. So I was that person. That's what I became. I became incredibly good at building automation lines, incredibly terrible and sucked at running a contracting business.
Which seems to be, yeah, like you just said, seems to be the key thing with a lot of contractors is the business end is the hardest end for them to
For
do,
sure.
and dealing with the money and the finances and so on. And that's where a lot of them need help too, is because they can't control that. But then again, in times like we've been in, where times are really good, you get a lot of the contractors that come into the business that aren't very good at both ends. They
Yep.
just want to make a quick buck, rob Peter to pay Paul, take the
Absolutely.
money. The last guy gets burnt, which we're starting to see now. And I think the truth is going to unfold on a lot of those types of contractors coming up here in the near future as things, may slow down. But it's, you know, there's a big part, like you said, that big piece that is missing is a lot of people, they lose control. They're good at their craft. They're good at what they do. They know how to build a good house. They know how to build a good commercial building, or pave a good road, or do paint a good, do great at painting or whatever. And it's just, but they can't control the financial end of it too. So
Yeah, you know what I attribute, the way I look at it, and sometimes on these podcasts, obviously I got my own podcast, right? No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. Some of these things just come to me, and what just came to me right now is, when you think about it, I've seen so many good contractors. That means, for everybody listening in, that means you're good at your trade. I've seen good contractors that go in the business, and the business, not only are they not good at being a business owner, but because of that, it turns them into a bad contractor. And what do I mean by that? Because of the chaos that the business creates, it affects their ability to even be that good contractor that they once were. It affects their skill set. It affects their delivery. It affects the quality of what they can provide to the client that they once used to be able to provide, either when they worked for somebody else or when they were just starting out, because the business really ends up taking them over. It ends up running them versus them running their business. And it literally runs them into the ground, right? Where they can't get, they can't coordinate the material like they used to. Everything's rushed, it's just like, and then everything gets done half-assed, and it's not their intention. Like, I really believe that for the most part, 95% of contractors that come to Profit for Contractors, or that you guys talk to, or you engage with, deep down in their heart, they still have the core principles of being great. But the business has taken them over so much that it's made it impossible for them to be even good. Mm-hmm. So, it's sad. It's like an invisible prison sentence.
Yeah, and that losing control factor too. It's very easy to do so too, especially if you don't have those right pieces in place. And when you finally get the right pieces in place, it makes it a lot harder to go that route and lose control. But you start to, a lot of contractors, I think, get into the business. They want to do everything themselves, which is almost impossible, especially when you get busy in times in the building industry too. There's no way I'd be able to do what I do by myself without the right pieces. Right. I mean, I handle a lot of issues with the customers and so on. Right. I'm good at talking with them. I'm with them from start to finish. That's my expertise. That's how, I'm good with the systems and all that. But with the money, having somebody control the money, or having somebody else do the selections and so on with the people, and having those pieces in place where, each step of the way, the communication is there. That's the key factor too, is that these people are in the know from start to finish. Because when you're spending $2 million, $3 million, $4 million on a house, you're going to want to know what the hell is going on.
You want to believe it.
So it's just having that communication process set up, and having the team around me, know that, hey, you got to call this guy. It's not just an email every time. Pick up the phone. People want to hear a voice. A voice comes a lot different than an email. I got an email the other day that the guy sounded like a complete dick. I called him, and he was a completely different personality. Totally. So that's another thing right there, that a lot of contractors don't do because they get lazy. They don't want to talk to people. I'm different. I've learned I got to pick up the phone, talk to people, then send it in an email, get it in writing, get it signed off. That's how our processes are. So
Right.
it's just like you said, getting those pieces in place and learning not to have to do everything by yourself to where you're so overwhelmed and consumed will change your business drastically.
Yeah, and I'm not going to bullshit anybody listening in. Okay, the reality, everybody listening in, here's the brutal reality. You don't actually know what it takes to be a good business owner. As you know, coming from being a contractor, you don't know. And don't think that you know. Don't think that you can get away with, like, I'm just going to put in more hours. I'm just going to put even in more hours. Okay. I'll do this myself. I'll do it myself. I can't get somebody else to do it. I'll just do it. I'm going to tell you right now, everything that Bill is saying is bang on, but it's a skill set. Okay. Think about this for a moment. How long did it take for you, Bill, to become, and let's just talk about the trade. Let's just talk about the trade. Let's not talk about the business. How long did it take for you to get the skill set to be able to go and build a house and deliver, let alone, over deliver, right? And create raving fans, but just deliver what it was that you promised. I mean, how long did that take you?
Years.
Years. It took you years, guys. So each one of these hats, okay? Each one of these hats, and I'm going to talk about just like really quickly, one of the most important hats, admin. That's a skill set. It's one of the most underrated skill sets. Okay. You think about how long it takes somebody to become a good administrator, somebody that understands what a process is and understands how to follow a process and understands how to put in a process. Okay. That takes skill set. Okay. It's absolutely incredible. It still amazes me how contractors, and it amazes me that, I think it's just through brute like force and pure energy, like contractors are able to even survive, because the complexity and the things involved to run a profitable business, a successful business, it takes so many different hats of skill set. Okay. And each one of those hats, in a lot of cases, takes years to become proficient at. And yet we think as a contractor, hey, I'm going to start my own contracting business, or I'm listening in on this podcast and I'm running my own, I'm a builder as an example. Yeah, man, I've been doing this for 20 years. Okay. How have you been doing it for 20 years? Have you been doing it just by brute force? Like, if you walked away from your business for fucking 2 weeks, what the fuck would happen to it? It would go to the shits, because the business is you. So there is a way, okay? There's a much better way to do it. And that's really, in my opinion, no matter, some of these other coaches you had on, the reality is this: you've got to steal like Robin Hood, okay? Ethically. You got to take stuff that's already been done, already has been proven, and apply it to your business. Don't try and fucking figure it out like I did for 10 years. That's hell. That's a quick way to fucking failure. I'll tell you that. So,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like going off of what you just said there, learning what you got competition that's been around longer than you too. I mean, that's another thing, and seeing what they do, and you don't have to copy them, emulate exactly what they do, but see what's working. I mean, if they're doing something, there's got to be something they're doing that is working, and you can apply that to your own business as well too. And then coming up with different concepts, being more creative and trying to outdo them and so on, like with model homes, all that. I've done this in the past. I've seen all my competition's model homes. I know what their pricing is. I learn all that because they're my competition. I need to know that, but also seeing what they do in their houses, seeing what they do in their houses and coming back to our model home and being able to sell people on what we do better.
Absolutely,
knowing what the competition did.
Absolutely. Bill, did you ever play sports?
Yes. Yeah.
Give me a sport that you played.
Football,
great sport. Okay. So take a look at the game of football, guys. Like, if you just worked your business the way that you'd play a game of sports, like even if we were just playing flag football, okay, how would we play that game? If I was going up against you and we were in some sort of league, okay, dude, I'm out to fucking kick your ass. I am. I'm out in an ethical way. It's a sport. We're out there, not the, hey man, I got a point. I'm going to now let you get a point. What the fuck? What are you talking about? Okay. Now that's maybe the way that they're, the sports is being handled now with the kids and stuff. Oh, Jim, everybody's got to get a run. Really? I hate to tell you, but that's not life. Okay. Sorry. I'm putting some of my principles out here. Okay. But that's just the way it is. Okay. If you just played the game of business the way that you would a sport, I'm going to fucking tell you, you're going to be way further ahead. And Bill is nailing some stuff here. Like, would you watch, I used to coach my kids hockey. Okay. I used to coach my kids hockey. Welcome. I'm a Canadian. Okay. Used to coach the hockey, played hockey, all the rest of that stuff. Dude, I'd be in the stands, right? In competitive hockey. I'm in the stands going to games and my son's not even on the ice. You guys are like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm watching the competition. I'm watching how they're playing. I'm watching how that goalie, I was a goalie. I'm watching the weak spots. I'm there with the other coach and he's like defense and forward. And I'm like, you watch those guys. I'm watching the goalie. Okay. Weak side, top left-hand corner, fucking take them. Boom. Oh my God, you guys are winning these games against the best teams in the league. How is that possible? Because we know our competition. Okay. You guys need to know your competition. And it's one of the easiest things. Bill's giving you some great tips here. Go to their places. Okay. Find out how do they engage with clients. Find out what they're doing right. Do a SWOT analysis. What's their strengths, their weaknesses, the opportunities? What's the threats, okay, to you? And very quickly, you're going to be having a better business because you're going to have a completely different set of lenses on how you can differentiate yourself from the competition. Mm-hmm. Right? But play it as a game. I mean, God, we wouldn't play a game of checkers, without freaking knowing what the score is, would we? Know your scoreboards, guys. Know your financials. Like, if you don't know your fucking numbers, what kind of game are you playing? You're not playing a game. You're not definitely playing to win with the right mindset if you don't know your numbers. These are things. But again, like, if I could get any listener to look at their business in an ethical, competitive way that they would if they were to play me or you a game of sports, I'm telling you, things will change because they're going to look at the scoreboard. They're going to, now looking at the scoreboard, they're going to react differently and do different plays. If it's a tie, if it's a loss, if it's a win, if they're fucking way ahead, like, guys, play your business like a game of sports and play it to win. And you're going to, like, the way you look at your business will change dramatically. Right. And you're doing that, Bill.
Yeah. I mean, if you go by, and one thing, being competitive is a must in business. Like you were just saying, it is a must. If you don't have a competitive nature, I don't think you're going to last, to be honest. When I go buy a job and I see another builder sign in that job and I talk to that customer, it pisses me the hell off. It should. But if that doesn't, then you probably shouldn't be the owner of a business. Maybe you should go work for somebody else or do something else, because when you see those things, it should piss you off. But you should step back too. And I've learned to do this and reassess. Okay, why didn't I get that job? Was it because of price? Okay. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Because I'm not going to lower my price. I'm not going to go down to that standard. There's certain builders I know that offer way lower prices than we do. And to be honest, when things slow down, they're not going to be here. We've seen it before. So, okay, was it because they didn't connect with me? All right, not everybody's going to connect with you. You're not going to work. You should know that off the bat when those initial meetings happen too. That's big to me as well. If that initial first meeting, we don't hit it off, we don't talk, we can't act like we're going to be friends. Mm-hmm. I'm with these people for 2 years, building some of these houses. These are big houses. They take 18 months. Then we have a warranty for a year after down here in South Florida. So it's just, I have to be in that relationship for that amount of time. If I'm not connecting with you off the bat, then we shouldn't work together. And
Absolutely.
sometimes there's another variable there. Okay, so maybe we didn't connect, or was it me, in general? Did I mess something up? Did I not do something right in those initial meetings that I can pull that customer and reevaluate your sales process? How'd you go about it? How'd you talk to them? What you show them when you took them to another job site? Was the job site clean? So all these variables run through my head while I'm passing by that competition sign. If it was a good customer that I wish I would have had, then I'm really trying to assess why I lost that job. And everybody should be doing that. That goes into the competitive nature, like you said.
It keeps you in the game, man.
Yeah.
Like, it keeps you in the game. This is the game of business, right? And if you were competitive back then, a lot of contractors were in sports of some nature. Most were they played sports or they watched sports or what have you. I'm not saying sports is the end all to be all as far as an analogy, but it's pretty damn close, So, if you look at how competitive you would be if you were to play a game of sports, you should be like at least double that in running your business. Okay. Like, people, I think, use words sometimes the wrong way. And just my opinion, it's, make your own definitions of words. And one of the words that I like to focus in on is obsessed. Be obsessed with becoming great, becoming the best that you can. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I've got a great coaching company. Okay. I've systemized this. This is the third business I've systemized and it's running without me. I do these podcasts because it's a blast, man. I do it because it's fun. I don't do it because I have to. And the reason that happened was because I became obsessed with getting the business to be great. And there's a recipe for it, by the way. Okay. You can either have it given to you or you can do it the hard way and try and figure it out. But, back to being competitive. Like, do you really want to just win or do you want to dominate? You're like, what do you mean? Like, do you really want to dominate your space? I like dominating. Okay. I like winning, but I love dominating. Okay. I want to be the leader. I want to be the guy that, and this is a good example, Bill, based upon, what you just gave as an example. When other people start trying to copy you.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, fucking right on. Right on. And some people get really upset. I'm like, go for it. Like, oh, Andrew, like my team be like, Andrew, somebody else, look at this other coaching company's using this exact same model as you. I'm like, yeah, well, fuck. It's our model, man. They're following us. They're copying. They're not the innovators. They're not dominating, right? They're just following, right? So yeah, really get your head in the right place. And a lot of this has got to do with mindset, Bill. Your mindset is one of the biggest factors here. And, being competitive is about mindset, right? So I know my competition. I know them so well that I've even had them on our own podcast, where I call it co-opetition. Like I love competition that much that I'm like, man, let's get on the same field and fucking have a game. Like, why not? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all about mindset and how you look at your business and where you want to be and how you want to be seen in the marketplace.
Back to the copying thing too. I mean, I drive around where we build right now and I see specific builders using our designs on the exterior and so on, very similar to, and it pisses you off in a lot of ways too, but it should piss you off. But it's like you said, you look at it as it should be a pat on the back in a lot of ways too, because you're doing something right. And going into that though, nobody is a Bill Ryman. Nobody's an Andrew. Nobody is who we are. Nobody can emulate who we are and what we do. They can listen to this podcast and be like, that's a good point. I'm going to try doing that. Yep. But their presence in front of somebody else is going to be different than, mine too. So if I'm in front of a customer, I'm going to be reacting and acting and talking a different way than that person. So that's where I'm going to beat them. They can steal the design of an exterior on a house all day, but they're not going to beat me when I'm talking to a customer, because I guarantee I'm going to talk to them better. and I'm
Right.
going to sell them better too. And that goes into
Right.
that whole approach as well. So, yeah, it pisses me off, and I'm sure it does to you, and it should. It's competition.
Yeah, man. You know what? It makes me more competitive.
Yeah.
It makes me like, okay, and I'm going to tell you, listening in, it should make you think about strategies that go, I'm going to come up with fucking something that they can't copy.
Yeah.
I'm going to come up with something that they're going to want to copy, but they can't copy. Okay. One of those things is us and our, our culture, us as people. But there's so many opportunities out there, guys. Like, if you're a builder or you're a contractor, I'm going to tell you right now, the majority of and I'm talking in the 90s, man. I'm telling you, the majority of people out there, because they don't have this skill set, because they haven't been trained on how to dominate, on how to differentiate themselves, they're just like winging it, man. They're just winging it, right? And the very small percentage of the ones that step it up to the plate and actually decide to do something about it and learn the skill set, or bring in people that have the skill set, it's a complete game changer, man. It's a total game changer, because you're dealing with, let's look at marketing as an example. Okay, guys, marketing there's so many different hats of marketing, right? There's being, a copywriter, because that's a skill set just in itself. There's, marketing people specific to social media. There's marketing people specific to certain platforms in social media. Like it really is an expertise when it comes to marketing. And if you look at it through the right set of lenses and leverage that properly, marketing, okay, if you up your game and up your skill set, can be the biggest differentiator against you and the competition, because it is a skill set, because it takes years and years to learn it, right? And that means that there's that much opportunity out there for you to make your business better, on every front. Okay, I'm just talking about the marketing front right now, but there's so many opportunities, man, out there to differentiate yourself. And we've already talked about, some minor ones that could become major ones, but comes back to mindset. How competitive do you want to be?
I mean, there is a lot of opportunity out there, and a lot of people aren't utilizing it. And even doing this, I mean, being on a podcast, doing podcasts, and getting out on people, while people are driving. There's voice, and then there's obviously video content and so on too. And a lot of people aren't doing it. Even in the good times, people aren't doing it. But in the bad times, you should be going all in on it too. Yeah. So no matter what, and consistency is key too. And I know that's been a big thing with you. With your content too. I was watching a lot of your YouTube stuff, and it's phenomenal. And it's consistency is key in a lot of ways. There are a lot of different things and opportunities that we can be doing. And I'll admit, I should be doing a lot more of it. I'm hard on myself. My fiance thinks I'm like a robot, and she's like, sometimes you can relax a little bit. I'm like, no, I got to edit this video. I got to do this. I got to, do this podcast too, and this and that. But it's doing those things that nobody else will to beat out your competition. And I'm constantly looking at what my competition's doing. I'm looking online. I'm looking at their Facebook pages. I'm looking at their websites. How can I compare to their website? They're doing pretty good. They got a lot of builds. All right, let me check out their website, how that flows too. Maybe they're doing something different than me. Looking at their Facebook, are they doing a lot of video? If not, I got a leg up on them because I'm doing a ton of video. Right. And it's just looking at those things and trying to get that leg up on, and that's part of being more competitive. Like you said, it's such a key factor in any business too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, guys, how far are you willing to go? And you have to get clear on your ethics as well. But how far do you want to go? Like, do you want to go down the path of, being setting something up so you're a secret shopper? I mean, do you? I don't know. Okay. Now, you might ask me, hey, so Andrew, what, would you support that? Fucking right, I'd support that. I'm out to win, man. I'm out to win. And I think that's no different than me going to somebody else's, my son's, competitive hockey and watching the competition play a game that we're, that he's not even on the ice for. I mean, why wouldn't I want to know those insights, right? Like it's and it also makes it fun. Like I think that part of it makes it fun, being competitive. And I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but guys, really differentiate yourself. There's a lot of great processes out there to differentiate yourself. Definitely doing that SWOT analysis, SWOT. That's a term that's out there in the marketplace. It's been out there for ages, man, like 20, 30 some years. There's a whole bunch of different acronyms, but you just do a SWOT analysis that we talked about. Break it down based upon the different aspects. Looking at it from a customer perspective, from a team perspective, internally, right, externally, from a supplier perspective. I mean, every aspect of your business, you should always be doing a SWOT analysis. And when I say always be doing it, that means you don't do it and then you leave it for another year. No, man, you should be doing a SWOT analysis ongoing all the time. Okay. The marketplace is changing. You've got to be playing this. You're either going to be playing this like a game of, I consider this like, you're either going to play a game, back to the game. Yes, back to the game. You're either going to play a game of X's and O's. You're either going to be playing the game of checkers. We're going to be playing the game of fucking chess. And you're going to have 5-6 moves ahead of the competition. I don't know which game level you want to play at. I'm not interested in X's and O's. I'm not interested, in checkers. I'm out to play the game of chess and to master that. And so you've always got to be at least minimum 1 move ahead of the competition. I prefer to be at least 3 to 5 moves ahead of the competition. Okay. That way you're proactive. That way you're an innovator. That way you're a leader in the marketplace. And that way you're an authority in the marketplace versus a follower. Right. So ask yourself, what's your game plan? Like, what's my game plan to be the best? And what does that look like? What did it look like in the past? What's it look like in the present? And what does it look like in the future? In the next, what's the next, in the next 3 months? What's the one thing we're going to do that's going to differentiate ourselves? And focus in on that. Get that done and make it happen, right? It could be the simplest thing. Like, Bill, what are some of the things that you do to differentiate yourself? Just 1 or 2 things. What would be something that you would differentiate yourself besides yourself?
I'd probably say a lot of video content.
Right.
And yeah.
Dude, you got a podcast.
Yeah, podcast. There you go.
Right. Like, think about that. You're an authority in the marketplace. Like, think about the target audience that Bill's going after. Again, I don't know, but I have a funny suspicion it's probably people that are in a place where they know what a podcast is. They're not 95 years old going, I'm not going to, like, what the fuck is a podcast? Right. I'm just saying, right. Is it true?
Yeah. I mean, the thing with it too, is I'm big on long-term play too. And I obviously there's short-term, there's long-term. Not a lot of people think of the long-term things. I totally agree with that. Yep. And that's part of podcasting. That's part of content too, is just a lot of people give up. They give up right away with it. They'll start a podcast. They'll do like 3 episodes and they're like, oh, I've got like 2 listeners. Well, you had 2 listeners, that 2 will turn to 4 and then 8, then I'll keep going up from there. Sure. And it's just playing that long-term game right now. There's more and more people getting into listening to podcasts too. There's more and more people watching. Video is the most consumed content on the internet now too. Mm-hmm. And there's different forms of it as well. So if you're not doing it, then people aren't going to see who you are, what you do, how you do it, and they're not going to know exactly what you do. A lot of the stuff I've done, I've had people tell me, they're like, when I build a big ass house one day, you're the one I'm going to call. Now I'm building with you. Nice. And I that's huge to me, because I'm going to be okay in the future. I got a lot of people that are making moves as entrepreneurs right now that I know that have told me they guarantee they're going to build a house with me.
Right.
So it's just building that long-term equity too by doing this. But then you get that person too. I've sold a $3 million lot off of video on LinkedIn. I've sold
That's
$2
amazing.
million property off of video on Facebook. I've helped somebody find an $850,000 house off Facebook
Mhm.
that messaged me on Facebook because of my content. So you can get stuff now, you can get stuff in the future.
Mhm.
If you're not doing this, you're going to be left in the dust.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, I think one of the things that I just would, leave this conversation off with is you've got to be, you've got to understand, all the listeners, okay, everybody listening, you've got to understand that you are the expert. Okay. You have to understand that the client is not the expert. They're trying to become the expert in being as knowledgeable as possible in the decision that they're trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more information out there than there ever has been. But with that being said, just keep in mind, like what is so valuable, and it's even more valuable in the hands of your prospects. Okay. A lot of times, a lot of contractors, they'll either not even recognize this, and so they won't explain things to the prospect to the degree and to the level that they should. Okay. Then there's the other ones where they're like, I don't want to give out my secrets. Okay. I cannot stress this enough. I did a talk just a little while ago, and we were talking about, like, again, there was somebody was asking in the audience, so, hey, Andrew, like, how do you go about, you talked about value. I had everybody raise their hand when I said, how many of you guys sell a good quality products and service? And all the hands go up. I said, okay, keep your hands up. Okay. Take a look around the audience. I'm like, picture everybody around that has their hand up is your competition. They're all saying the same thing. So, like, what are you going to say to differentiate yourself? So one of the best places to differentiate yourself is in your expertise, in getting them to understand what is your true value that you're bringing to them. Okay. And, it's there's so many different ways to do that. Right. And if you can just articulate what those things are, you'd be amazed at how much better your communication is going to be with the clients, and how much more, or how much higher your conversion rate is going to be, because people are going to actually understand what your true value is. So I had this guy get up on stage, and I go, tell me, I had a volunteer, come on up. Okay. Tell me, what do you do? I pretend I'm a prospect. I do this and this and this and this. I'm not joking. And all the listeners, within 10 minutes, I had him. Okay, perfect. Said, tell me, how do you install the truss? What do you mean? Like, how do you do that? And he explained it. I made some bullets about that. So tell me, like, how do you make sure that there's no mold? Well, we do this and this and this. Of course we do this and this and this and this. Oh, okay. After about the fifth point, I said, stop for a minute. I said, now I'm going to be you. I look at the bullets. I just read the bullets. So what we do here at such and such, builder, is we provide this kind of service. Now, one of the things that we cover off is this and this and this and this and this, and this is how we do it to make sure there's no mold, and that you got this sort of protection. And this, the whole fucking audience is like, I'm like, guys,
That's good.
I didn't write those things. That came out of John's head. So, guys, make sure that you're communicating properly. Articulate what it is that that your product and service is all about. Okay. Because that gets so underrated, man, like massively. And when you look at when you look at pricing your jobs profitably and not trying to win the job because you're the lowest price, like, make sure that you're communicating such that what they're paying for, you're providing a greater value than what they're paying for. Sounds simple, right? But how many of us actually do it? Right. And this guy had been in business for 23 years. Okay. He had a great name. He had in the area, but he didn't even know his own true value. And that was 10-minute conversation. Imagine how much true value has been just sitting there in his head.
Yeah. And off those five bullet points that you put on that board, there's 5 videos right there that he can do
Yes,
content with.
absolutely. Absolutely, guys. You know?
It's
So
just,
it's huge. It's huge. And you all have it in you. Like what in this specific example, you have it in you. Just maybe get somebody to bring it out of you. Okay. Because it's hard sometimes to see ourselves swing. It's hard to recognize the things that we just take for granted that we've been doing for so many years, right? Or the unconscious part of our minds that we need somebody just to pull it out of us, right? So
yeah. And it goes back into just like just said there, the 5 content pieces, the 5 video pieces, just do it too. Just go out, do it. People want to see what you do. People want to learn from you and know. I mean, I'm launching a 5-minute video. They always say, oh, that you should do 1 to 2 minutes. This video ended up being 5 minutes. It's a punch out video on how we do punch outs and so on. But I made it funny. My bulldog's following me around. He's drooling. I'm putting blue tape everywhere. That song "I'm Blue" is playing in the background.
nice,
You
man.
have fun with it, but you entertain as well too, because
Yeah,
that's just who I am. And
for
I like to
sure.
have fun with stuff. But content's not that hard, and people just need to get past the point of worrying about everything and the lengths and what they look like and so on, and just have fun with it. Like that evaluation you did with that guy, with that John, right there, it's like, how do you hang a truss? Okay, let me talk about this. I hang a truss this way, blah blah blah. Boom, 1 minute clip. How do you deal with the mold? Okay, I deal with the mold like this. Boom, 1 minute clip. There's 5 pieces of
And
content
everybody
right there.
think about this for a second, right? Think about this. Like let's just pick the mold one, right? How many people buying a home, you know? I did this same strategy, the mold strategy, with one of our clients, installation company. Okay. More than doubled. I'm not shitting this, guys. More than doubled his conversion rate. Okay. By creating videos on this, by being able to talk to it, by training his salespeople. Why? Because his target audience, okay, he was dealing with custom home builders. Most of the homes that these custom home builders were building for were for what? Families. Most of these families either had or were going to have children. And one of the biggest things, it's a fact, man, but getting mold, black mold in behind the freaking drywall that nobody can see, and not properly installing the vapor barrier and not properly taking these steps, explaining that to these clients and these prospects allowed him to be 20 to 30% higher than his competition. Why? Because his competition is selling insulation. What is he selling? He's selling a solution. That's a very, very different approach. Hey, man, we're the lowest price of the insulation. No. We're the lowest price to make your house efficient and safe. Okay. But that comes at a cost. And guess what? Especially, I know maybe this sounds a little bit sexist, but especially the wives in his target audience are like, I want that. They're like, we could do it 20, 30% cheaper. That means that we're not going to use this product. It means we're not going to do this. It means that the risk of you getting, mold behind your walls is going to be that. Like, guys, it's right there in front of us. I don't care what trade, electrical, man, fucking house fires. I don't care if it's plumbing when it comes to water. I don't care if it comes to sewage. I don't care if it comes to a builder and the importance of the truss and how they pick them and how they select them and the importance of the strength of the beams and why that's important so that you don't get freaking a roof caving. I mean, guys, come on. It's so right in front of us. We just have to be willing to see it.
They ask, you answer. That's the thing. And these simple questions of customers ask you too, you should jot them down every single time and then make a video out of it. I've been trying to listen more and do, obviously listening is a huge part of any business. But any questions, even the stupidest ones that you may think as a contractor, like I'm going to do a video. I'm waiting for it to rain. It's been dry season down here, but it should be raining this summer. But I'm going to do a video on, does a metal roof make noise when it rains? How many times I've been asked that question? does a metal roof make noise when it rains? I've been asked that multiple times by customers.
You got to tell me.
So I'm going to make a video on it. I'm going to wait till it rains, stand in a house that we're building with a metal roof, and I'm going to say, do you hear anything? Because we do spray foam insulation. We do all that. And if they don't hear anything, there's the answer to their question. So it's just doing fun videos like that are going to make a difference too. And we can go on and on into the video content. We'll probably have to do a whole nother show on this, but due to time too, I want to get some personal questions in with you. We've been rolling here. We can go all day. Like I said, what about you personally? You have built an amazing, brand and business that continues to grow each and every day. What lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business or lives that'll help us grow?
I think one of the biggest things is you got to have a vision. You really got to create a vision. If you don't have clarity of what it is you're trying to build and where you're trying to go, you're just not going to see the opportunities that are right in front of you. We touched on that a little bit about differentiating yourself, but you've got to, guys, you've heard this before, so this isn't mine. I'm just going to share it with you because it's a principle. I got this. I think this is probably Jim Rohn or something like that. And one of my mentors, I never got to meet the guy personally, but guys like him, he basically, said, a perfect plan not executed is the worst plan. You've got to have a plan that you can execute on. Like, don't complicate it, but know where you're going. When you're trying to solve problems, when you're trying to create something, no matter what it is that you're trying to do, think about your time for a second. I wasted so much time just doing. I didn't have clarity of what I wanted to build. And because I didn't have enough clarity in what it was I wanted to build, I wasn't able to be intentional with the things I had to do to get myself there and who I needed to be. I don't know if you've ever heard of, again, I didn't create this, but B times do equals have. Like, guys, you got to get clear on what it is you want to have. And whenever I have not had that clarity, chaos comes in. Okay. So I think one of the biggest, tips I would give somebody listening in here is you've got to have a vision of what it is that you're trying to build. And I like that example specific for your audience, especially builders, because think about it. Like, think about what you're trying to build for your clients. Imagine dealing with a client that had no clarity of what it was that they wanted. That'd be pretty tough to succeed, as a builder for that client when they don't have any clarity of what it is they're trying to build. Well, think about your team. And your team's trying to support you in building something. And, this goes back to my principle about there's a lot of skill sets that tradespeople have that is so applicable to business, but they're not aware of it. And I wasn't aware of it for a long time. The minute that Bill, got clear on what it was that I was going to do, and it happened to me, really quickly. It happened to me when I came home late for the 1000th time. And there's my baby girl, there's my son, a baby. My daughter's only a couple of years old. I'm late. Babysitter's there at 7:00. I'm supposed to be there for 5. I'm all freaking dirty, exhausted. Run upstairs, have a quick shower, and it hit me. And that's where, it hit me that how is it that and I asked the question. I was like, how is it I can build these freaking multi-million-dollar automation lines, but yet I can't build this business? My brain, I guess it was the cold water, went, wait a second. If I can build automation lines that run basically without people to a certain degree, why can't I apply the same principles and build a business that's automated that can run without me? And that started creating that vision of what it was I wanted. Then I was able to go, this is what I want. Then I was able to start breaking it down. So for all those listeners, have a vision, okay, of what it is that you're trying to build. And, my last little tip on this is don't get hung up in these books where they're like, you got to have a 10 and 20-year vision. Fuck that. Okay. Have a vision for as far as you can see. So if your definition of a vision is what you're trying to build in 6 months from now, then that's okay. That's okay. Because if that's as far as you can see, I want in 6 months to have this and have this operational with these kind of results, yada, 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 then work on that 6-month plan. Okay. Or even a 3-month plan. Okay. That will give you the skill set that when you ask yourself the question again, because your vision actually changes, everybody. Don't think differently than that, because what you learn changes your perspective. And when your perspective and skill set changes, your ability to see what you can accomplish changes, and that changes your vision. So get started with a plan, with a vision, and you'd be amazed at that, how that enables you to know, at least give you a better gauge on like, what can I do? Where do I got to start? And, that would be one of the biggest tips I would share, Bill.
I love that. It's a huge tip too, because so many people kind of, they know what they want, but they don't focus fully on that overall vision too. And I love your time frame thing too. You shouldn't be pressed to have a long vision within 5-10 years, maybe narrow it down. And those are kind of steps to that overall.
Yeah. Now I do. Okay. I do. I got a 20-year vision. Yeah. You're like, Andrew, but that's contradicting what you're saying. No. Let's just be clear. I had to work up to that.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to work up from 3 months, then to 6 months, and 6 months to a year. Then a year allowed me to see, oh my God, if this is what we can do in a year, here's what we can do in 3, because I was building up confidence. I was building up skill set, and I was building up my ability to see further in the future. Mm-hmm. So as a starting point, guys, start where you can start. Don't start where freaking Jimbo is like, hey man, I got a fucking 5-year fucking vision. And you're like, deer in the headlights. Like, okay, start with something that you can build, guys. Think about yourself as a builder, right? If you were to teach somebody to build something, would you go and get them to build a fucking $3 million home? Or would you say, I'm going to teach you how to build a shed? And then they're going to learn how to put little tiny truss on the shed and how to pour foundation and how to do this. And then it's going to be like, okay, now we're going to build maybe 1,000 square foot home. Okay, perfect. Now you got that. It's a skill set, right? Build upon it. Okay. And don't listen to these other people, in my opinion, that are like, you have to have a 5-year plan and a 3-year plan. Like, yeah, right. You build up your skill set. Okay. Have a starting point and have a vision for what it is that you're trying to build, right? Based upon time.
Love it.
That's huge.
Love it. So to wrap this up, what this show's all about, what exactly do people need to look for when hiring a business or a construction coach, and why should they choose Andrew and Profit for Contractors as their coach of choice?
That's a great question. I would have to say, I mentioned it earlier. Definitely work with somebody that's been there. Okay. That's done it. That's doing it. As an example, we got a whole team of coaches, and those coaches have what? They have contracting experience. Okay. They're either clients that have been there, done it, or doing it. Okay. So deal with, I don't even know if I'm the right fit for you. I'm going to say that right now. Okay. For any listener, I don't know if I'm the right fit for you. Okay. We're a no bullshit type of company. We're all focused in on results. We are focused in on people that are willing to take the action necessary. If you follow the process with Profit for Contractors, you'll get results. It's guaranteed. It literally is guaranteed, but it's got to be a fit. Okay. Maybe Tom, you guys, again, I'm mentioning, like sort of competition, co-opetition, maybe Tom Reber is a better fit from a personality, maybe from from that kind of perspective. It's got to be a fit, guys. Bill talked about this earlier about clients. Like if you're not connecting with them, right? If you get offended by me cursing and swearing a bit, I can tell you right now, I'm not the right fit. Okay. Because that's not what my focus is. I'm not, maybe the most politically correct, I'm not an English prof, but we are focusing on results. And if you're looking for people who have the templates, the tools, the done for you systems, and you want to leapfrog from decades to days instead of trying to figure it all out on your own, and you're willing to take that next step, then there's a potential fit. Okay. So, that's how I would answer that question. We've got, if you're struggling with hiring, if you're struggling with your time and your team, if you're struggling with your profits and your cash flow, if you're struggling with your marketing and your sales, those are the core areas that we have specific solutions for. And it doesn't matter what type of contractor that you are, the principles are the same. But again, you've got to be willing to do the work. You got to be willing to apply these things, and you've got to be committed, man. No bullshit. And that's what it's about.
Andrew, a lot of great information packed within a short period of time too. Like I said, man, we can go all day too, but I love it. I appreciate your time with this, and I know you're busy. Last thing too, before we wrap this up, where can people find and connect with you?
Yeah, so you guys can go to profitforcontractors.com. You can find us on Facebook, same place, Profit for Contractors. And, you can also join our podcast, the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. That's where a lot of people go to get sort of a taste of what Profit for Contractors is all about. I would highly advise that you go to that podcast. And the reason for that is you're going to get tactics and strategies. You're not going to have to pay a freaking dime. You're going to be able to test some of these strategies and see if these things work or if it is actually bullshit. But hence why it's called the No Bullshit Podcast. So go to the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. You guys can, join our, the Profitable Contractor Association. That's a Facebook group that's free. I think we've got, 15,000 members on that right now. And my team's on Instagram. I think we've got like 25 or 30,000 people following us on Instagram. So you can follow us there as well. So any one of those methods, but highly advise the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. Great strategies, great tips. We got guests like Bill that, we're going to have on and people of that nature that, and we definitely, go under the hood to give you guys actual tactics and strategies, right? Not some sort of fluff like, oh, you should do this. And people are like, well, what the fuck do I do? It's like, no, here are the 3 steps. Here's exactly what you need to do. Okay. Take this, apply it, and you'll get a result, So that's sort of the channels that they can find us at.
I love it. Yeah, Andrew, this has been awesome. And
Thanks,
like I
man.
said,
It's been great.
I'm looking forward to coming on your show too and dropping some value. I really do appreciate your time today, though. This is awesome.
Cool, man. Awesome.
Cool.
Great being here.
Awesome. For everybody listening, the routine. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, do what you got to do. 5-star review only is allowed on iTunes. And I appreciate everybody listening. And I will see you guys on the next one.